Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. Today I'm making this video a little bit later in the day than I would like to. So I am on both psychology duty and dad duty. I'm not going to drag my little girl into the frame because, well, I don't think everyone in the household would be crazy about that. So I may have to be cutting this video up a little bit more than usual. But this is the second part of like I said, two-part video series. The last time I made a video, I was talking about some of the dynamics about understanding and explaining certain conditions, particularly as they related to sexual behavior disorders. Along with that, the focus I really want to emphasize is less about the disorder and more about the explanation piece. One of the things that I've often found interesting over the years is not just the language we use in psychology, but where our language comes from. Now, the word apology actually has its origins in the same word that would mean to defend. You may have, if you're familiar with theological studies, apologetics and whatnot. So this idea of an apology isn't necessarily about the act of forgiveness originally as much as it is the defense of an argument. And I think that raises an interesting point when we think about things like explanations and how we present them and how that may come across to people. Perception in these matters is really where I'm getting at with this. And the issue of perception, the perception of sincerity, for instance, of an explanation or of an apology is really crucial. Down in the bottom, there is a paper that actually dives into this a little bit. And if you're interested in reading about that a little bit further, it's linked down there. But the larger point is there are some crucial aspects to conveying an explanation or an apology to people that need to take into consideration the ability of the receiver to understand that. Now, for those of us who are in the treatment world, this may have some relevance in terms of how we directly interact with the people we work with. But I think it's also very relevant in terms of how we help people we work with process through their social dynamics, their social interactions with others. So, starting with this idea of an explanation is really this importance of sincerity. It's how are we perceived in terms of being sincere in when we are trying to explain something or apologize for something. Recently, I'm based out of Virginia, and we have had a off-season election cycle. Our elections take place between the presidential and the mid-season elections, midterm elections rather, on the national level. And for those of you who aren't familiar with that, we had a bit of a scandal with one of the attorney general candidates having a history of text messages which were really, really perceived as being off color and saying some terrible things. I bring this up to say that during the attorney general debate, the candidate in question, he apologized for it, and it was like very much flat.
I am ashamed. I am embarrassed. And I'm sorry.
And to me, and this is totally my subjective experience, it didn't really come off as very sincere. And I was like, yeah, okay, he said it for, did he say this because he really means it, or did he say it because he wants the various blogs and websites and whatever, and dare I say newspapers, that we don't really do newspapers anymore, they want to be able to put that in text that he said he's sorry. So how we convey, whether it is the apology or whether it is the explanation for something and the sincerity for it, is highly important. And what goes along with that sincerity piece is helping people convey our reasons for why we are conveying this information. To go back to the idea of the interplay between an apology and an explanation, why a person is offering an apology, for instance, is really important. There are some people who perceive an apology, even just saying I'm sorry, as an implicit request for forgiveness. And forgiveness is a topic that, on a personal level, one of my strongest suits. My Sicilian side of my heritage, I think, sometimes gets in the way of that a little bit. But indeed, this idea of, how do we convey and how do we help people convey the meaning behind an apology, an explanation? How does that be subjectively get received to a person is highly, highly important. And these are some of the dynamics that I think, even for those of us in the mental health world, we don't always necessarily think about quite as much as we may need to. I think sometimes we take for granted that people will take a lot of these things at face value. But when we get on the deeper level, we do need to engage in that level of empathetic thinking, that ability to put ourselves in the other person's shoes. And as I was saying in the last video, are they really in that position to receive that message we're trying to convey? All very important. So all things that really need to be taken into consideration. To tie this back into the previous video, when we are talking about challenging topics such as child sexual abuse, pedophilic issues, how we explain, how we make sure, not even explicitly explain, but at least implicitly explain why we are trying to help people understand these issues is really crucial, because it is so easy for the lay person to jump from explanation to defense. That idea of the apology really being an all-encompassing, or at least interconnected issue, really comes back and presents itself here in these type of things. So again, the importance here that I would really take away for anyone, whether I'm helping fellow professionals work with our clients, our patients, whatever you want to identify them as, or if I'm conveying this to a layperson who's not necessarily a mental health practitioner, but is interested in understanding how to better communicate with people and how to be better received by people, is really this idea of, do your best to make sure your intentions in what you're communicating is effectively communicated to the person that you're talking to, as supported by research. Again, linking that down below. Okay, so now let's skip over to the fun stuff-ish. Down here, we are literally in the middle of our second snow in as many weeks, which is pretty rare since I moved to Virginia. And it is coming up on Christmas, so I am going to be sharing with you my recipe for that I've come up with for Gingersnap ice cream. Let's get into that. Okay, for this, it's going to be mostly with a pretty basic base. Looking at, and again, I'm not really looking at calories for this one, a cup of milk. I'm using 2% today. And then a cup of cottage cheese. I wish I had my non-fat stuff, but again, I am relegated to the, what is this, part skim, low fat? I don't know what they call this. Yeah, low fat. So a cup of each, just to kind of get your base going. And let's do our loud noise thing. Let's throw in like normal. I'm going to do a 1/4 cup of sugar. Actually, this one, if you wanted to a 1/3 cup, it probably wouldn't be bad, but I'm not trying to overdo it. And because I want to have a little bit of a kick to it, because I like ginger flavor stuff, we all like ginger flavor stuff in my household, do a 1/2 teaspoon of ground ginger in there. And a splash of vanilla extract. So we will mix all of these guys up. And one of the challenges of doing this at home is that our neighbor's dog got loose, running around our backyard, and our dog Ginger was just freaking out. Hi Ginger, you did well defending the home. Thank you. Anyway, Ginger needs a quick treat. Hold on a second. Anyway, okay, so I've got this all mixed up. Let me just do a quick test. We're right on target. Now, one of the things that I have also done with this. Ginger! Sure. Now, one other thing that I do with this before I freeze it is I have some, I've already processed these up. Here's my, let's do this one. Through some ginger snaps themselves in the food processor. So I am going to throw a cup of ground ginger snaps into this mix. One last loud noise. And voila, there we go. There is our unfrozen ginger snap ice cream. Now, the other thing that I will do with this, and I do this after the fact, particularly for those of us who are in the Ninja Creami world, is that I will take some frozen ginger snaps that I haven't ground up yet. After I freeze this, use the mix-in setting on my Creami to give a little bit more of a cookie crunch flavor to it. So that is my ginger snap ice cream. If you are in the Creami community, I hope you enjoy it. Not exactly the healthiest, but it will be tasty. For the rest of you, I appreciate your time for watching this video. It's been fun. I don't know when I'll be back. Probably be a couple more weeks. Be safe with the holidays, whatever you celebrate. Or even if you don't celebrate, everyone else does, so please be safe on their account also. And in the meantime, for all of us out in the working world, go forth and do good work. Have a good one, guys.